Music City with neon lights, soccer dreams in the night, chasing goals with electric speed. Winning is our only creed. On the field, we feel the heat. Nashville strong, we won't be deep. This is Electric Gold. Your podcast that is getting old. Telling tales both new and old. This is Electric Gold. We're waiting for the game. We're giving it the fame. Electric Gold is staying true to the boys in electric gold and blue.
Welcome, everyone. It's Electric Gold time. It's September 3rd, 2034, and I am Ryan, here with your longtime hosts, Evan and John. We're so glad to be with you this evening. It's Sunday evening. We just watched a romp from NSC once again last night. You guys in good spirits? How you feeling?
Couldn't be higher.
Oh, flying high, flying high.
Well, it's been a terrific weekend so far. The weather has just been fantastic. The game was terrific. And guys, I'm glad to be sitting here with you doing this podcast. We're 10 years in now.
Ooh.
I can't believe it. It's all flown by so fast. It feels like it's still the first season.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
It really does. You would think by now we'd be getting tired of this, but man, I never do.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, here's to 10 more years.
Cheers.
Well, before we cheers, we've got to talk about our beers. So, that's a long-standing tradition for us. So I want to make sure we go around and find out what you guys are drinking this evening. Evan, what are you having?
Well, tonight, boys, I'm staying here local in Nashville with the Bearded Iris Pep Talk. This is a German Pilsner with bright key lime, sparkling white grape cider. It's even got some overripe passion fruit in there. This is a delicious beer, boys. It just gives you a feeling that anything is possible.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. John, what are you having?
I am also keeping it local. I'm keeping it with old school Tailgate Brewery. Everybody around here knows Tailgate Brewery. Of course, They have like 400 or 500 stores here in Tennessee. And this one I got from Tailgate Millersville. This one is a coffee and cream barrel project. It is so good, guys. It is like a barrel-aged milk stout. And it's got, it's like a rich chocolatey stout. Got some woody bourbon notes in there. And then you've got coffee, vanilla, and sweet cream all in there. And man, it is a treat.
That is fantastic. Even though Tailgate has become a national brand at this point,
right?
They still churn out some really good beers. I mean, they still have held true to their original mission.
Never sold out.
The quality has never dipped.
That's right. It's terrific. It's funny you mentioned Millersville. Of course, that is the hottest neighborhood in Nashville, it seems, lately these days.
Yeah.
I actually got my beer from up there. I went to 31W Liquors and Craft Brews and picked up a Sun Bump from Wiseacre Brewing Company, which, of course, is based out in Memphis. Now, I was really confused at first about the Sun Bump name. What does that mean exactly? And so I started reading their description of it and realized that it's an allusion to cocaine.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's a revitalizing snoot of sunshine with a toot of fruit and spice. It's a Belgian-style hazy, and it's silky wheat, oaty flavor. It's great, and I'm glad to be drinking it here with you guys this evening. So cheers to you.
Cheers, boys.
Okay, guys. Well, what do you say we get this thing started, as we always do, with a little bit of week in review? Nashville rolled into the weekend in first place in the Southeastern Conference, having won 10 in a row and a goal differential of plus 22. Their opponent this weekend was Bismarck FC, who was sitting in 10th place in the Midwest with a very balanced record of 8 wins, 8 losses, and 3 draws, and a goal differential of -4. It was a home match for Nashville as the two teams faced off in Kid Rock's big-ass soccer stadium last night. From the start, NSC took an aggressive approach to the game, both on offense and in their defensive challenges. LeBron Gutierrez was a particular highlight, consistently connecting the ball from the defensive side to the offense with long passes into the middle of the field, rather than the typical Nashville approach on the wings. This approach proved fruitful early on when Gutierrez landed an excellent pass at the feet of veteran striker Erling Haaland, who raced past the defense to nail a shot from the left side of the box just inside the right post for his first goal. In the 21st minute, NSC set up for a corner kick from the left side taken by Haaland. Nashville's attack rushed the box, and Walker Zimmerman Jr. skied above the defense to catch the ball with the back of his head, dropping it into the goal past the Bismarck keeper. Nashville stayed aggressive throughout the first half and took the 2-0 lead into halftime. Right out of the break, NSC struck again when Zimmerman Jr. cut off an errant Bismarck pass and immediately went charging upfield. The ball found its way to Gutierrez in midfield, who then landed a beautiful pass to Arya Patel on the left side. Patel then performed a nifty step-over move to throw off the defense and found a charging Haaland in the center of the box. He easily knocked the ball in for his second goal of the night and established an impressive 3-0 lead for Nashville. But then Bismarck began to find their way with more attack and opportunities, and in the 65th minute, they struck pay dirt. They caught Nashville's backline playing high, and the NSC recovery was a little bit slow to respond. A cross from the right side found its way in front of the NSC goal, where Walker Zimmerman Jr. lunged to deflect the ball, which he did, but unfortunately the deflection landed in the back of the net, bringing Bismarck their first score of the match. But in the 82nd minute, Nashville shut the door on any possible comeback. A corner kick from Patel found Haaland on the back post, whose header bounced off the right post, and then Nova Martinez recovered the deflection and sent the ball back in front of the box, where Patel attempted a header of his own. That also ricocheted off the crossbar, and then Haaland captured the ball on the right side, took a commanding shot at the goal, which finally went in, completing his hat trick. With that, Nashville completed another impressive performance this season with a 4-1 victory at home. They continued their reign at the top of the Southeast Division with a goal differential of +25, while Bismarck falls to 11th place in the Midwest with a goal differential of -7. So there you go, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
It's become common, but it never gets old to see NSC winning like they do. And now we're up to 11 games in a row. Can you believe it? Not their greatest winning streak that they've had over the past several years, but certainly it's up there. It's one of the better ones. And I just love to hear what you guys saw or thought about the game. What are your initial reactions? John, what do you think?
What 2 words? Erling Haaland. The guy is 34 years old now, and he has come in with such a good attitude. He has slipped right into the lineup. I think some people were concerned that maybe he was a one-trick pony, like he was getting a little bit old to be just a straight finisher, but he still got it, baby. I mean, he is fitting right in. He is a boy in gold all the way through. I've been wanting this personally for like 12 years myself.
Sure.
And now it's happening, and it's right in front of us, and it is beautiful.
Kind of always seemed he was destined to be a boy in gold, honestly.
Right.
What did you see, Evan?
Yeah, y'all remember when we signed Haaland, I was very skeptical of that, but he has proved me wrong. And like you said, he has looked more comfortable and at home playing for NSC than any other club in his storied career. But on top of that, the outstanding play of Zimmerman Jr. And
correct. Yeah.
After last night's game, I think he's a lock for Defender of the Year, which would, of course, be amazing given the fact that he's, 11, 12 years old? I mean, he will be the youngest Defender of the Year in MLS history.
But, I mean, we knew this was coming. I mean, he's been in the NSC Academy since he was 8.
Right.
Playing alongside his father, obviously, and his father has gone on to be a great assistant coach with us.
Yes.
He's teaching his son well. I mean, this kid has it all. He's got the future ahead of him. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of our team and the highest highs that they've achieved. I mean, yes, all the championships and stuff that they've achieved over the past few years, it's been amazing, but they just continue to impress. They continue to give back to the community, represent Nashville so well. I'm just so in love with this club. And we had some dark years back in the days, and I'm so glad that we stuck through it, that the fan base stuck through it, hung in there, continued to support them through all those dark times. And now we are definitely being well rewarded for that loyalty. So
That's right.
Right.
it feels so good. Feels great. So, guys, something else that I think people are probably aware about by now is all the year long, we've been talking about the fact that this is our 10th year broadcasting as a podcast, Electric Gold. It's been quite a wild ride. And, I've enjoyed every moment of it. But, we started pretty inauspiciously. We were doing this out of our bedrooms and living rooms.
Yeah.
Just doing it for fun. We had no designs on any kind of greater achievement, just than, we were talking about soccer anyway. So why not turn on microphones and record ourselves doing it? Who knew it would turn into the gigantic media conglomerate franchise that it has become? I mean, I can't even believe it. Like, there are action figures of us, guys. Action figures. I never thought I would see the day. It's pretty amazing.
Still boggles the mind.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you guys remember back to that first season. First of all, talk about the dark times. That was
man.
Do you guys recall that at all? Like what we were having to go through back then in 2024?
That was insane.
I do remember back then. I could not believe how bad it got.
Right.
Right.
That season was so terrible. And we were like, what? Why are we even doing a podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, we questioned it for a little while.
Yeah.
We were questioning it. We were proposing that possibly the team was cursed by Johnny Cash.
Oh,
You remember that?
that was funny. Yeah.
But we stuck with it. And at some point in the season, we did a landmark podcast episode, not just for Electric Gold, but just for the entire medium of podcasting when we created Electric Gold, the musical. Do you guys remember some of that?
How could you forget?
Right.
That kicked off everything.
Yeah.
It really made a huge difference because that episode, where we basically turned every segment of the podcast, we turned into a song, and it just started to slowly catch on with the fan base. We had a small base of listeners at that time, but then all of a sudden we started to see like the analytics rolling in of, more and more people were downloading that episode and listening to it. And all of a sudden it was exploding. We were going viral, and it really re-inspired a fan base. I don't know if you guys remember, that was pretty lackluster by that time in that season. Can you imagine back then when it was called Geodis, it was not even getting filled up. I mean, it was just 2/3 full for each game, maybe less.
Yeah.
The energy in the supporter section was dipping, and
Just gone.
you would never think it to see it today. I mean, it's just an incredible party. It's packed shoulder to shoulder in there. But back then, things were not going well. And then this musical episode dropped, and it started to make everybody fall in love with just having fun supporting the club again, whether they win or lose.
Yeah.
They just rediscovered their love for soccer and for Nashville SC. And then from there, it kind of inspired the club to make changes, and everything just snowballed from that point on. It was still a struggle for the next few years. There were several coaching changes that year. Who was it? Gary Smith, the first coach of NSC, was coach for the first few months. And then we had
I forgot about him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had that guy who was the interim coach.
Yeah.
I don't remember
his name?
Yeah. And then BJ Callahan, who came in and coached.
Right.
And of course, he was with us for a
Callahan.
few years. Yep. And so there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of turnover. But then over the next few years, the team really made a commitment to change. They saw the energy and passion from the fan base and made a commitment to change. And it all started from Electric Gold, the musical. So it's been quite a wild ride. I'm glad that we played a part in it. Of course, our lives have completely changed from all of that.
Obviously.
So I thought tonight would be a great moment, since we're talking about it is almost exactly 10 years from the time we published that musical episode.
You are shitting me, really?
Yeah. Can you believe
my God.
Can't believe it.
Feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it really does. And so I was thinking that tonight might be a good time for us to do a retrospective or reflect back on the past 10 years.
Oh.
So as we do the different segments of the podcast, the all hell yeah, the all hell no, the hot takes and so forth, thought maybe it gave you guys the opportunity to not just look back at this past weekend, but at the last 10 years.
Wow.
From 2024 to present day, 2034, and pick out your best moments, worst moments, hottest takes, and so forth. So you guys on board? Shall we do this? Shall we dig into the last 10 years?
Let's get misty-eyed, boys.
All right. I love it.
Let's look back.
All right. So let's get started with a little bit of, oh, hell yeah. Okay, guys. Your best moment or favorite moment from the last 10 years of Nashville soccer. Evan, go for it.
We have had so many great moments, over the last 10 years. But honestly, my favorite has come just right here recently when Zimmerman Jr. was captaining the U.S. national team at the World Cup when we beat San Marino 6-5 to take the World Cup championship. First time America ever won, and Zimmerman there captaining the team. And I was just like, oh, hell yeah, this is as good as it gets, boys.
Yeah, for real. Like, that was the best soccer game of all time. Because we all know San Marino, the amazing story of San Marino. They went like 20 years in a row without winning a game. Then, almost 10 years ago today, they finally won one game.
Right.
And then they just didn't stop.
That's right.
They were this international powerhouse.
It's crazy.
They won Euros. They won the 2030 World Cup. They just kept rolling. And it was almost unimaginable that they would ever lose again. But our boys in the Saudi Arabia desert, man, they came through. It was glorious.
USA. I'm so proud to be an American. And we finally brought that cup home where it belongs and where I hope it stays. Man, It has been a long time coming. We came so close in 2030 where we finally got to the finals.
Yeah.
But we just weren't ready. The team was a little bit young and just wasn't quite ready, wasn't as experienced. But this time it all came together. Again, like you said, under the leadership of Zimmerman Jr., ZJ, as we like to call him.
Right.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was just an amazing game. It was back and forth. First, we took the lead. Then they went up a goal. And then we tied it up. And then they scored another. And then we scored two. It was just back and forth. And then finally, in the last couple of minutes there, that final score to put us ahead. Magnificent.
Glorious.
One for the ages.
It was almost too good to be true.
I'm so glad that we got to attend and watch it in person, the three of us together.
Right.
It was so great.
Yeah. In Neom, the newly constructed city in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And beautiful city, wonderful people, so friendly. Just that entire environment. They've done such a great job over there in Saudi Arabia. It's a delightful place to visit these days. So hats off to them for pulling off a fantastic World Cup.
Thank you, Saudi Arabia, for your sponsorship.
All right, John, what's your ah hell yeah moment of the last 10 years?
My oh hell yeah moment has got to be, we all know it. Who is our leader here? It's got to be Taylor Washington.
Yeah, Coach Washington.
The face of the franchise since back when, I don't even know how many people remember this. We used to be a USL team, basically minor league soccer team. And Taylor Washington was playing on that team. He graduated on to become a MLS player. And, he was always a solid backup team player, but super popular with the fans.
Always the nicest guy on the team.
The nicest dude ever. And everybody loved him. And then obviously, once he took over as coach, that's when it all turned around.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was 2028, 29, something like that, when he took over. And he's won 3 MLS championships. He's won the Coach of the Year. All 3 of those seasons we won.
Mm-hmm.
He's still the backup left back for us.
Amazing.
He's still able to step in and do the job if needed.
Right.
He's the coach. And obviously, he's also the mayor of Nashville. On top of all of this,
his leadership skills were so impressive and just blew the entire city away so much that they ushered him in as the new mayor. And he's done great things for the city as well. And his running mate, who he brought with him, his longtime teammate,
Brian Anunga. If you guys can remember, 10 years ago, we criticized this guy Like we weren't sure he was.
I don't think I did though. I don't remember.
Oh,
I don't remember doing that, but you guys might.
I might have on a personal level, but I mean, Brian Anuga, he stuck with it in 15 seasons in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
He has 1 goal and 0 assists. But Brian Anuga is Nashville through and through. Like he and Taylor together have formed such a formidable team that I can't imagine two guys that represent the city of Nashville to a finer degree than Taylor Washington and Brian Anuga. And I mean, long may it continue. Eventually, surely they're going to retire as players, but they're leading the team and they're leading the city so well that I just hope it continues forever. All hail, yeah, Taylor Washington and Brian Anuga.
Beautiful. Yeah, they've just have a stellar track record as coaches and as politicians.
Yeah.
And, you were mentioning, Taylor became the coach in 2029. It's such an interesting journey. If you look back at all the coaching changes that Nashville went through to get to the point where they're at now, of course, you had Gary Smith, who was the original coach.
Yeah.
And then in that 2024 season, he was let go because the team wasn't performing. We had that interim coach. That name escapes me. Oh, yeah.
Rumba.
Yeah, that's right. So he was just interim for a period of time. And then BJ Callahan came in, who I guess had been a previous assistant coach, a bunch of places. He was there until 2028.
Right.
And
that's right.
He left for Europe in summer of 2028. He definitely got the team playing better than where they had kind of bottomed out, but he still wasn't able to get over that hump. So then when he left in the middle of the 2028 season, who came back?
Do you remember who came back?
It was Gary Smith again.
It was Gary Smith.
Right.
Couldn't believe it.
And it was the weirdest season ever, if y'all remember. Because he came in and we didn't really do that well that season. We just barely snuck in the playoffs on the last day.
Yeah.
And then obviously from there, everybody knows what happened.
Oh, it was the magical run, right?
Yeah.
It was the Music City Miracle Part 2.
Yeah.
Where they kept winning and winning and winning. And it was crazy because in those playoffs, every game.
How many goals did we score?
None.
We didn't score a single goal. We had 6 consecutive 0-0 draws. And every time our keeper back then, Elliot Pettico, would win the penalty shootout for us. And that's how we won our first MLS Cup.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, incredible.
Of course, then the next season, in the very first game, they let Gary Smith go during the game because the fans all fell asleep. Like in the 65th minute or so, right?
Yeah. Everybody in the whole stadium fell asleep. It was very weird.
Yeah.
And like I remember seeing the highlights afterwards, and just a guy, I don't even know who it was, came down to the sideline and was like, "You got to get out of here, dude."
Right. And so then after that, that's when, with a lack of options, they ended up promoting Taylor Washington because he had such longevity with the team at that point.
It only made sense.
Yeah, and he knew the team inside out, so they promoted him up to player coach, and from there, the rest is history.
Yep.
It was a wild ride. Well, those are great all hell yeah moments. I'll mention one small one myself. It's not a small one, but the change in ownership that happened in 2029 is also a part of this story of how the team really elevated to the success that it's at now.
It's got to be.
Who would have thought in 2024, when we first started this podcast, that the team owner today, Haley Welch, would have become the owner.
Right.
At that time, she was just a viral video sensation, the Hawk Tua girl. The next thing you know, she's got a podcast that's blowing up much like ours. And she ends up selling the rights to her podcast to Spotify for like $1 trillion. One of the first things she does is buys NSC.
Yep.
And starts to really put a lot of money into investing into great players, all of these stars. And, now she owns the Preds. She owns the Titans. She owns the baseball team, the Nashville Hot Chickens. And she even rebuilt Starwood Amphitheater from our childhood, which God bless her for bringing that back.
God bless her.
That might be her greatest accomplishment.
For real, yeah. God bless the luck to a girl.
Almost single-handedly, her investment alone in the city of Nashville has turned it into an IT mecca and just a city of the future. All hell yes I can give to Miss Welch for putting the money into this city. Who knew that all of the success that would come for the city of Nashville would emanate from her description of how to effectively execute oral pleasure on a man? So good for her. Yeah. It was fantastic.
You could only stand and applaud her, really. I mean, when we started this podcast, none of us had any idea. No one in the world had any idea who this girl was.
Right.
And now she's like bigger than Oprah and God combined.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And kudos to her for turning that into such a great success. So
yeah.
And giving back again to the city and all that she's done for us. So that's a big hell yeah for her.
It's marvelous.
All right, guys. Well, let's turn the page on that. Let's look at maybe some of the things were not so great over the past 10 years. And John, I'll stick with you for your hell nah moment.
Sure, yeah. Let's talk about my hell nah moment. I gotta say that the lowest point was obviously the end of that 2024 season. The fan base was just completely distraught. I remember talking to people, and people were like, I'm not going to any NSC games anymore. It's too depressing. Like, I don't even know why I do it anymore. I remember some people saying it was kind of like going to church. Like they were just going because it was the routine, and it was depressing, man. I remember one game me and Ryan went to, there was like hardly anybody there in the pregame.
Yeah.
It was sad. It was a disaster. And it was all because we stuck. Do you remember this guy? Mike Jacobs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember him?
Yeah. Old Moneyball.
The original GM, right?
He was our original general manager when we started at MLS. And he did a fantastic job of building an expansion team. If you guys remember back then, we were really solid our first 4 seasons in MLS, maybe 5. I can't remember. But like, he did a really good job of putting together a team, a lot of MLS veterans, and then occasionally finding the international player. Like, you guys remember Hani Mukhtar, obviously. He was our first MVP.
Yeah,
that's right.
He did a great job finding these guys, but he kept sticking with that formula. And do you remember the whole GAM fiasco, general allocation money? He kept building up these veteran players' contracts, even though they weren't deserving.
Gamgate. Isn't that what we called
Gamgate?
Gamgate. And eventually, we had like the 3rd or 4th highest payroll in MLS in 2024.
And we had bottomed out. We were like last place, right?
And we were the last place team.
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
Yeah.
I've tried to forget that year, but
I know.
Yeah.
Can't quite forget it.
You just have to say, oh, hell no, Mike Jacobs.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing back then.
The good news is that at the end of the 24 season, now we're talking about the inspiration from the musical episode, the fan base. While they were in revolt about where the status of the team, there was still this passion and love for the team. And it did inspire some changes to the front office. And that might have been really the first big change that started to change the trajectory of the team. Because in 25, of course, who did we hire as the new GM, who has been incredible ever since? He's still the GM to this day.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate genius of MLS, Dax McCarty.
Yes.
It was the perfect hire at the perfect time.
He had just retired. Yeah.
Right. He had just retired from Atlanta. And it was ridiculous that he was there in the first place because he was Mr. Nashville.
I agree.
We could have just kept him and he would have retired an NSC player, but they had to let him go, and he spent 1 year in Atlanta. Thank God that we let Micah Jacobs go at the end of that terrible season. And Dax built the empire that exists to this day.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Evan, what's your all hell nah moment from the past decade?
Oh, man. My all hell no moment probably is in the fall of 2027 when we made it to our first MLS Cup against the new expansion side from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, of course, we were heavy favorites in that match, and we went up early by 3 goals. But then, due to some mental lapses and poor play, Albuquerque came back and won that match 4-3, which was probably beginning of the end of the Callahan era.
Right. Yeah.
It was a heart ripper.
Yeah. So when they scored that go-ahead goal, that 4th goal, I was just like, Albuquerque? Are you kidding me? Oh, hell no.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah. It was just like we could never get over that hump with him. I mean, he definitely helped to resurrect the franchise from where it had been a few years earlier, but we just needed that extra Taylor Washington bump to get us over the hump, to get us to that championship. I guess actually Gary Smith got us that first one again. Like you said, John, that was such a fluky, weird season.
It's so hard to remember.
to establish that dominating empire that we have today. I mean, we needed T-Wash in there to lead the boys. So
Yeah,
that was definitely a dark moment as well. Yeah, I guess, John, you referred to it. I remember that game that we went to where there was just nobody in the stands hardly. There was nobody at the tailgate. It was a game against Austin.
Oh.
Remember when Austin had a team? Well, as before they got relegated.
Right, yeah.
And then after that, the game after that was away. I did a little bit of research to remind me. We lost 3-0 to Orlando.
Oh, man.
That was actually the second 3-0 loss to Orlando that we had that season. I mean, you look at Orlando now.
That season was so bad that all the games just ran together.
It was just really unfortunate. Those were, to me, just the all hell gnawest of all hell gnaws, and dark, dark times. I don't ever want to go back there again. I'll tell you that.
No, God, no. Thank God we have moved on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's put that all aside now. Let's do what has always been my favorite part of the podcast, which is when you guys get to give your very spiciest, hottest takes. This is the Nashville Hot Chicken Takes. And today's Nashville Hot Chicken Takes are sponsored by Beanstalk Gummies. Guys, we'll get back to the podcast in just a moment, but first, let's chat about something that really scores big, both on and off the field. It's Beanstalk Gummies. Beanstalk isn't just another supplement. These hemp-flavored gummies are a game changer for anyone who's looking to boost their vitality in a natural and an enjoyable way. And the best part, your partner is going to love the effects just as much as you do. That's right. With Beanstalk, you're not just getting a longer lasting boost, you're bringing a whole new level of excitement and satisfaction to your relationship. It's about growing together and enjoying those special moments more fully. So each gummy is packed with high-quality natural ingredients that make your Beanstalk thrive, ensuring that you and your partner enjoy every moment to its fullest. So why keep this secret to yourself? Share the joy. Let Beanstalk lift your spirits and enhance your adventures together. Find your pack of Beanstalk gummies at local health stores or online. It's time to experience enhancement that brings more smiles, more energy, and yes, even more love. Try them today and feel the difference, not just for you, but for the both of you. All right, so this is the Nashville Hot Chicken Takes. John, we'll let you start. What's your hot take from the past 10 years?
Here's a spicy take.
Yeah.
That musical episode we did was the craziest thing that could have possibly happened.
It was wild.
Do you guys remember? Obviously, Evan remembers what all happened afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
Or do I?
Do you guys remember the first time we were sitting in the stands like that next season and people started singing about empanadas?
Oh, right. The empanadas song. Yeah.
Yeah, because we just made some silly songs about empanadas, but man, that caught on.
It really did.
People loved their empanadas. And then everything started getting so crazy. If you guys remember, it was about 2026, right after the World Cup in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Evan, I hate to call you out, man. I know this is still touching a personal.
It's okay.
But we all remember where we were when we started hearing the rumors that Taylor Swift had a new paramour. She had a new love in her life. And we were all like, how could this be? What? Who is it this time?
Right.
Is it some megastar? Is it some football player? Some basketball player? Who knows?
Sure.
And by God, it was our very own Evan.
Unbelievable. I mean, he was very good at keeping the secret for a few weeks there. Like, I didn't know
You
anything.
did, dude. I didn't know a thing. How did you do that?
Yeah, I'm not tuned into pop culture that much, so I'm not going to be the first person who hears about anything. But then, like, all of a sudden, my wife's coming to me with these TMZ reports about Evan and Taylor stepping out. I'm like, what? What is going on?
How did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could have told you sooner, but
Yeah. Well, we all know why. I mean, you had to sign the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, that was the first of many.
With all of Taylor's people. We all remember the craze that started happening. You know, she obviously came to the NSC games with you.
Yeah.
It was just crazy how the attention of the media turned to MLS and specifically to Nashville SC. Previously, just completely ignored sports team. Like most people in Nashville didn't even know NSC existed.
That's exactly right.
Up until Taylor and Evan started showing up at games together, it had such an effect through American society. The NFL almost fucking folded, guys, because people weren't watching it anymore. Because, do you remember?
I do now that you mention it.
At the game.
Basically, they had that lockout, and then they had to renegotiate their entire player contract and everything. That was wild. And it all kind of stemmed from the massive change in fan attendance from NFL games to MLS. It was crazy.
Everybody was coming to MLS games. Obviously, around this time is when Kid Rock bought the sponsorship of the stadium, and it changed from Geodis to Kid Rock's big ass soccer stadium because it was just a beautiful thing that he could not resist. And then, I mean, Evan, I gotta give you credit, buddy. You did not let your fame go to your head.
Right.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
This podcast kept rolling. We kept doing it. We kept going all the time, despite the fact that we were the biggest team in the world all of a sudden.
And we were one of the biggest podcasts in the world, like
everybody in the world was listening to us all of a sudden.
Yeah. And don't think for a second I wasn't getting crazy, ridiculous offers everywhere else. But no, you guys are my ride or die.
Man, thank you so much. That means so much.
I appreciate that. I love that. Really, the only thing that happened during the whole Taylor thing was that we had to run every joke past her lawyers.
Yeah.
That we did.
That kind of sucked. I'll be honest.
It was a rough few months.
Yeah.
What was cool was when Nashville did get to host the Super Bowl as a result of kind of all of this happening, right?
At the new Nissan Stadium in 2029. And obviously, God, Evan, I'm so sorry to bring this up again. Obviously, Taylor moved on to another guy.
Yeah.
And we all know who it was because it's the same guy that they all go to.
Yeah.
It's Ben Affleck. Fuck you, Ben Affleck.
Yeah, always.
Just fuck you, Ben Affleck. You always get the girl. But yeah, I mean, it was so sweet to see you, Evan, perform with Taylor at halftime of the 2029 Super Bowl right here in Nashville. Obviously, you helped out with Taylor's cover of Evan and the Empanadas.
Yeah, we were able to put our personal lives aside and come together for the better of the nation. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that, man.
We all needed it. We all needed just the healing moment of you and Taylor together for one last time.
We just needed some closure is what it came down to.
I can understand that.
We did. And that's my hot take, is that it was a good idea to do that music.
Yeah, it worked out all right. Well, Evan, do you have a spicier take than that? Shouldn't be difficult.
Yeah. Just piggybacking off of the national healing that came after that performance that I did with Taylor. This country in 2034 is in so much better shape than it was in 2024. And you can trace this back even further than the musical episode because so I'm going to say my Nashville hot chicken take is that the single most significant moment in U.S. history is when the ghost of Johnny Cash visited our own John in his dream that night and told him that the club was going to be cursed until they started playing his song again. And John brought that message to us. We brought it to the masses. Eventually, Ian Ayre made the decision, or he reversed his decision not to play it and started playing it again in 2025. And everything good that has happened in this nation over the last 10 years goes back to John bringing that message to us.
It's a great point. It's hard to pinpoint exactly which of these events in 2024 that we were responsible for changed the course of history, but that's a good one. I mean, I could definitely see it because once we started to spread the word of the Curse of Cash, and that caught on with fans everywhere, pressure was put on the team to change back to the tradition that we had started with.
Yeah.
It absolutely could have made the difference. If you're the kind of person who believes in those types of things, and I think we all are, I think it may have made the difference. What would have happened if we had not brought that song back? Could we have gone on the run that we've gone on these past several years if we hadn't brought the Cash song back? And to this day, now we still play it at the beginning of each game.
That's right. What if Johnny had looked down on all of us and deemed none of us worthy to receive that message? But he did.
That's true.
He selected you, John. He selected the Electric Gold podcast as the vessel with which to communicate this message, and it worked.
It sure did. I mean, obviously, in the 10 years since that one fateful season, we did not play that song. We have not missed the playoffs once.
That's right.
We have one season in MLS history that we did not make the playoffs, and it was that one fucking season we did not play the Johnny Cash song.
That's a great point. All right. Those are both excellent, spicy hot takes. I'm going to say Evan got this one, just be perfectly honest. I think it's just a teeny bit spicier than yours, John, but well done to both of you. All right. Now let's move on, because one more final thing I thought we could do in this retrospective as we look back over the past 10 years is we have a lot of fun doing our Mount Rushmore segment. I thought this time around we could look back to 10 years ago, as we've said, there were some not so great things happening that year with the season that the team was having. But I'd love to get your Mount Rushmore of pop culture from the year 2024.
Oh, wow.
That's fun.
Hopefully you guys have been able to take some time to do a little bit of research on this, jog your memories, because I know it was a long time ago, and pick out what things that were happening that year that, whether it's TV, film, music, whatever, what have you, that really stood out as the best for you and goes on your 2024 Mount Rushmore. So, John, we will start with you, and I'll just kind of alternate back and forth and let you go first. And what was your first entry for the 2024 Mount Rushmore?
All right. So thinking back then, this is easy. There was one TV show that everybody was watching back then, and that was every bit deserving of the attention that it got. And of course, I am talking about The Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. My God, I loved The Bear. It was such a good show. It started off, as this chaotic, crazy thing happening with all these kind of low-life people making all these run-of-the-mill sandwiches in Chicago, and turned off. They all were inspired by one person's vision to become bigger, to become a fine dining restaurant. But it was crazy, man. I could not get enough of The Bear. Every episode was packed with drama, and I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. It's one of my favorites. All right, Evan, what's your first Mount Rushmore 2024 entry?
Okay. Yeah, back then, I tell you, I was so enamored with the following album. It was called Passage du Désir by Johnny Blue Skies. That's French for Passage of Desire. Johnny Blue Skies being at the time, new moniker for the great Sturgill Simpson, and especially the yacht country song Scooter Blues off that album, where he talks about living off chocolate milk and Eggos, taking up kickboxing, riding his scooter down to the store, just fishing all day to fill up the grill for dinner at night. I mean, it just spoke to me.
Sure.
And boy, I loved that Johnny Blue Skies album back there in 2024.
Oh, that's an awesome choice. Well done.
Awesome.
All right, John,
Incredible.
Your next one for 2024 Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I'll come up with a music one next. And this was a Nashville musician. It's actually a band. It was two guys. And if you guys can remember all the way back in high school, these two guys went to high school with us up in White House, Tennessee. They were an electronic music duo, and they were called Jensen Sportag. You guys remember them?
Oh, heck
For
yeah.
sure.
So
There's a guy named Austin and a guy named Benji, and they made incredible music. It was like kind of combination 80s R&B with avant-garde electronics, and it was unreal that this music was coming out of Nashville / White House, Tennessee.
No kidding.
Right.
It was amazing. And they put out an album right around the time of 2024, if I remember correctly, that I love dearly, and I still listen to it all the time. So I love Jensen Sportag.
If you remember, there was that whole revival of that style of music. You know, it kind of caught on for maybe like about 18 months there between 2030, 2031.
Yeah.
There was a whole host of bands that were coming out with that music. And while they themselves weren't one of the like popular bands that hit big during that trend,
Renaissance.
Yeah, that Renaissance or what have you, many of those bands named them as an influence.
Right. Yeah. They were kind of like the Velvet Underground.
That's right.
Not everybody bought the records, but everybody that bought the records ended up making their own music.
Exactly. So they were hugely influential to that little small period of revival of that type of music. So very good. Very good. All right, Evan, what's your next entry for the Mount Rushmore?
Okay. Well, I'll enter a show this round, and I was watching season 4 of Slow Horses. If you guys remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Amazing show called Slow Horses, which was about a kind of misfit band of British spies, MI5, and Gary Oldman was the lead character, and
R.I.P.
Yeah, right. Oh, what a loss. But anyway, the writing was stellar, the dialogue, the plot twists, the action. One of the very best shows I've ever seen. Definitely the best show of 2024.
I definitely loved that show as well. And you turned me on to that, Evan. I don't know if you remember. You told me about that show, and I went and binged it and just loved it. And I've probably rewatched it 3 or 4 times now. It's fantastic. Okay, John, your next entry.
Yeah, I'll come up with another show. This was a very fun show that I do believe Evan turned me on to. This was a Hulu show. It was called Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, right.
You guys remember this show?
Sure.
Yes.
It was amazing. The funniest people in Hollywood, Steve Martin and Martin Short. Obviously, now we know that Steve Martin actually reversed the flow of time and now has a head full of like blonde, curly hair.
Yeah.
After going like 50, 60 years with white hair.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the most beautiful man in the world at like, what, 85 or so
Exactly.
right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, that show was so fun. They put so many little details, and they always surprised you. Like, you never could figure out exactly who committed a murder until like maybe the last 5 minutes of every episode of every season. It was so fun to watch.
And of course, Selena Gomez, she's a billionaire now. And
Right.
she has been for several years, but she has a big place up there in Millersville.
Oh, I forgot she's up
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I mean, it's not her only home, but she's got a residence there that she, when she's
Right.
coming to Nashville, that's where she stays. So
Yeah.
Right.
I've heard it's her
Yeah.
favorite of all hers.
I'm sure it's massive. It's gigantic. It's up on that big hill just on the other side of Slater's Creek there. It's fantastic.
right.
Mhm.
Is it right next to where the Coca-Cola bottle museum used to be?
That's right. That's exactly right. Back there.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You're spot on.
Okay. Evan, your next Mount Rushmore 2024 entry.
Okay. I was kind of searching for a film to add, and I don't and didn't back then watch a ton of movies, but when I did watch, they tended to be comedy specials. And one of my all-time favorite comedians put out one of his best specials back in 2024. And this was, of course, Dimitri Deconstructed by the great Dimitri Martin.
Oh,
one of
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
one of the most brilliant and purest joke tellers in comedy history. And yeah, I really loved his 2024 special. So I'm going to add that to my Mount Rushmore for my film entry.
Nicely done.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I think you can see all of his old specials on Netflix 4 now. So
right.
I think they've got all of that collected there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, John, your last Rushmore 2024 entry. What's it going to be?
I'll go with one more Nashville band. It was a post-hardcore kind of punk band called Better Off. They were in Nashville,
Mhm.
back around that time, and they were amazing. They had a lot of influences from the 90s.
Right.
Which is the time that the three of us grew up in, way back. Can you guys believe it was 40 years ago when we graduated high school?
That's crazy.
You're making me feel
40 years ago, guys. Come on. A lot of the influences were kind of like they loved Helmet. They loved Jimmy Eat World. They loved Smashing Pumpkins. They loved a lot of like shoegaze stuff like My Bloody Valentine. But yeah, they threw it all together, and this was like 30 years after the fact. Better Off sounded like if they had existed in 1994, 1995, I would have written their name all over my folders of my school. That's how good they were back then.
Or carved it into your desk.
Yeah, exactly. Carved it into my desk. Just written over and over. That's how good they were.
Sweet. Okay. Well, Evan, what is your last 2024 Mount Rushmore entry?
Yeah, I thought I would enter a book into the Mount Rushmore.
How intellectual of you.
Yes.
Well, the author of this book that I'm going to enter in, you guys, I think, you've probably heard of him, Eric Larson. He's written great books about Churchill, and probably most famous one, The Devil in the White City. Maybe you've heard of that, about the serial killer at the World's Fair back in Chicago. But in 2024, he published The Demon of Unrest, which was a book about the 5-month period between when Lincoln was elected and the Civil War broke out. And this was one of the most chaotic, tumultuous, and testing times in American history, so much so that Lincoln said after the fact that had he known what that 5-month period was going to be like, he never would have believed that he could have survived it. So anyway, wow. I love Eric Larson. I love Civil War history. This book, The Demon of Unrest, is a stone cold classic.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig in the library.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go look that up right now. That's awesome. Well done, guys. Those are excellent Mount Rushmores. And for all of you who are listening, who maybe are too young to remember 2024, or maybe you're too old to remember 2024, that's a look back for you. Maybe check out some of those things from that year and reminisce, because it was not a great year for NSC, but it was a great year for pop culture. All right, guys, well, let's wrap things up. Let's do a little week in preview. Next weekend, Nashville will travel to Cincinnati to face off against a team they have beaten an astounding 13 times in a row. Nashville faced off against Cincinnati back on March 16th, and they won 2-1 in a game that featured goals from Laban Gutierrez and Novo Martinez. Right now, Cincinnati is 8th in the Rust Belt division with a goal differential of -12. They're coming off a 2-0 loss versus Louisville. Then on the following Wednesday, Nashville will host a midweek match versus Canadian treasure Winnipeg City, who is currently sitting in 3rd place in the Canadian Conference with 9 wins, 4 losses, and 4 draws, and a goal differential of +5. Winnipeg is currently riding a 3-game win streak with victories over New England, Orlando, and Baton Rouge. They've proven to be a formidable offensive opponent, but they've also been prone to allowing a lot of goals too, like when they lost 4-0 versus Vancouver in early April. And while Winnipeg has exhibited a stellar record at home, they've been far less successful on the road and are sporting a sub-500 record when playing as the away team. So very quickly, you guys, as we look ahead to both the Cincinnati game and the Winnipeg game, do you guys have any predictions about what might happen? Evan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the Cincinnati game is an easy one to peg. It's going to be 14 in a row. Probably going to beat them by 3-4 goals easily. Probably even rest a lot of starters. That'll be a cakewalk. And then, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and predict. I mean, we're playing so well right now. I'm not too worried about that Winnipeg match either. I'm going to say probably a 4-0 victory there.
It's still so hot down here. Those guys are just not going to be able to deal with the weather, I don't think. Yeah. John, what are your predictions?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Cincinnati, if you guys remember back in 2024, we've been talking about it all the time. I think we won like 7 games that season, and 2 of them were against Cincinnati.
Yeah, and that's when we were terrible.
Right? Do you remember, guy? And I don't think we've lost a game to them since in any competition. it's like 62 in a row without a loss or something like that. So I'll go conservative and say we're going to win 23-0 against Cincinnati. Then we play Winnipeg after that. And once again, if you guys remember that season, we were so terrible. We were still really good against Canadian teams, even back then.
That's right.
And we always have since. So 14-1 over Winnipeg.
Wow. High scoring. Well, Cincinnati, like you said, 62. Is that what you said? Games in a row where we haven't lost?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's been about 6-7 years since the last draw. And then we've won, like I said, those 13 in a row. So
yeah,
I'm not trying to take them for granted or anything. And I would never expect our NSC boys to do anything but become completely prepared for the game.
Right.
They should be able to handle them easily.
I do see Erling Haaland scoring at least 12 or 13 goals.
Sure. Yeah. So, I think it's 2 more wins for Nashville. They're going to stay atop the Southeast, and we're getting ready to head into the playoffs here pretty soon. Who knows, boys? We may be looking at one more championship under our belts.
Let's make it one for the hand.
One for the thumb?
Yeah, one for the thumb.
There you go. All right. Well, this has been a really fun one. It's been fun looking back with you guys. What an amazing 10 years it's been doing this podcast with you. Like I said, it's just flown by. Thank you guys so much for the friendship and for doing this together all this time. It's been quite an experience. Before we get going, John, you want to let people know how they can reach out and get in touch with us?
Absolutely. On X and on InstaWhoop, we are Electric Gold NSC. And you can dial into the nanobots on the back of your eyelids. They'll tell you all that you need to know about our podcast. You can download us straight from there. If you are walking around Nashville and you see a telephone pole, just stare at it for 4 or 5 seconds, and it will take you to our podcast and listen to us. Leave us a like, follow us, subscribe to us, commit your soul to us.
Sure.
Do the whole blood imprint thing, where once you die, your blood transfers to us and becomes our blood.
I've seen people doing that. I'm not sure I'm in on that yet.
I mean, you got to keep up with the times.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
Right.
All of this leads to one place, and that is Electric Gold NSC.
Yeah. And we still have our Spotify playlist. If you want to sign up. Still going.
It has 8,000 songs across 10 years of mirth and music and merriment.
And of course, if you're out shopping for groceries, don't forget to pick up your box of Electric Goldie's cereal.
Yes.
Every dollar that you spend on our cereal will go to helping to pay off Evan's legal fees in his court battles that he's had with Taylor Swift. But otherwise, thank you all for listening. It's been a great episode once again. And to all of our millions of fans, we just really appreciate the support that you've given us these past 10 years. In the meantime, keep coming out. Keep supporting the team. Show up for the first tailgate, the second tailgate, and the third tailgate. Go to the games. Cheer the team loud and proud. Keep on saying it. Come on, you boys in gold.
Come on, you boys in gold.
Come on, you boys in gold.
Talking dreams on Friday nights. Electric vibes and stories told. Come on, you boys in gold. Waves of laughter in the air. Podcast pals without a care. Sharing glorious thoughts out loud. Come on, you boys in gold. Waves of laughter in the air. Podcast pals without a care. Sharing glorious thoughts out loud. Come on, you boys in gold. Electric gold, love so bold. Every tale like treasure gold. Voices echo through the night. Come on, you boys in gold. From the highs and through the lows, shining bright where passion grows. And their words were never old. Come on, you boys in gold. Soundtrack to our endless dreams, flowing soft like gentle streams. In their stories warm consoled. Come on, you boys in gold. In each beat, in every word, inspirations always heard. Moments cherished, tales retold. Come on, you boys in gold. treasure gold. Oh, voices echo through the night. Come on, you boys in gold. Oh, electric gold, love so gold. Every tale like treasure gold. Voices echo through the night. Come on, you boys in gold. From the highs and through the lows, shining bright where passion grows. And their words were never old. Come on, you boys in gold. From the highs and through the lows, shining bright where passion grows. And their words were never old. Come on, you boys in gold. Come on, you boys in gold. Ooh.
But I mean, Brian Anuga, he stuck with it in 15 seasons in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
He has 1 goal and 0 assists.
But
Those are his real stats, by the way. Okay.
John, do you want to let people know how they can reach out and get in touch with us?
Absolutely. On X and on InstaWhoop, we are Nashville.
Electric Gold. Still whoop.